Alright, let's play pool spinner. What grade are you in? Oh, did you?
Alright, everyone, take your seats and quiet down. Today in class, we're going to be learning about date and domestic violence. Does anyone in class know what date and domestic violence is? Jason?
Violent or aggressive behavior within the home or relationship, typically involving the verbal or physical abuse of a spouse, partner, or family member.
Here's another handout to learn about the cycle of abuse. Now we're going to watch a video on domestic violence. Okay.
I always imagined the story of my first love would be a magical one, not a cautionary tale. I had just started college in Chicago. I was so fun and carefree and feisty. I felt like I was invincible and ready to take over the world. I was fearless. And then I met him. He was so handsome and charming. Our first date was a walk in the park. I remember he pointed out that I had a booger in my nose and I was super embarrassed. He asked me to be his girlfriend a few months later, and of course, I said yes. And that's when things changed. I slowly stopped hanging out with my friends. It was always just me and him. It went as far as him creating a rift and ruining the trust between my best friend and I. Me and her didn't speak for almost 2 years. He would get upset at me and he would break my cell phone so I couldn't talk to anyone. He was convinced that I was cheating on him. He would get upset at me for saying hi to my guy friends on the street, but that should have been a sign right there. He was emotionally abusive and he made me feel like every decision I made was wrong. I felt that nothing I did could make him happy. The first time he hit me, I was convinced that it was my fault and that my attitude made him upset, and maybe if I didn't talk back, things would get better between us. The moment I knew that I had to get out of the relationship was when he knocked me down and I fell and I hit my head. It wasn't the first time he hit me, but it was the first time I felt really scared. I called my best friend and I finally told her the truth. And she said she was coming to get me and I was staying with her in the suburbs. While I was packing, he came home early and was livid when he saw that I was leaving. I didn't realize the situation got out of hand until he pulled a kitchen knife on me. He told me, if you leave me, you're gonna kill me, so you may as well kill me now. And only then did my brain register danger. My best friend came at the nick of time. She called the cops, and that's when he slit his wrists. The cops came and took him to the hospital. I felt so guilty. I was an empty shell of myself. I was apologizing for my very existence. I had no voice. I had no identity. I was seeking approval from everyone except myself. Much to my regret, I did end up going back to him a few months later. We were off and on again. It was a tug of war between my loneliness and depression and vulnerability. I was trying to find peace with myself, and I wanted to forgive him so I wasn't carrying the hatred that I felt for him. I found myself in an all too familiar situation when I felt that he was trying to knock me down to size again. And things with us weren't truly done until about another 1.5 years later, when he moved to a different state. I always thought, how could this happen to someone like me? I was a good girl. I wasn't raised in a household with domestic abuse. All of my friends had normal relationships. What was wrong with me? Why did he feel he had to hit me? Once he was gone for good, I rediscovered the things that made me happy again. I threw myself into my career. I had new friends and love interests. I had a therapist who I saw once a week, and she helped me build myself back together again. If you're going through this, I want you to know to pay attention to the signs. It's hard because your emotions are clouded and you're in love, but love is supposed to make you feel good. It should always lift you up. Listen to your friends, they care. Don't forget that you are still a good person because you deserve all the happiness in the world, and you're worth it.
As you can see, class, domestic violence is real, and it changes people. For homework tonight, make sure you fill out the packet and bring it in ready to answer questions tomorrow. Alright, will somebody explain to me what we learned yesterday in class? Sabrina?
Domestic violence is violent or aggressive behavior within the home or relationship, typically involving the verbal or physical abuse of a spouse, partner, or family member.
Oh, that's what we learned yesterday.
Alright, let's go over our packet from yesterday. Number 2, who commits domestic and date violence? Elena?
Anyone in the family or relationship who feels the need to have power or control.
Number 3, why do people commit date and domestic violence?
Any person who feels entitled to power and control over their partner and chooses to use abuse to gain power.
Yeah. They have low self-esteem, extreme jealousy, anger issues. They could also feel inferior to others in education and social situations.
Number 4, who becomes a victim of domestic or date violence? Nicole?
Anyone can be a victim, but you are especially targeted if you are a person of color, if you are a lesbian, gay, or transgendered person, if you are physically or mentally challenged or elderly, if you are a male victim of abuse, if you are from another country, if your religion makes it hard to get help, and if you are a teen.
Yes, Sabrina?
So like Nicole said, also if you're a child in a violent home or you're being stalked, you're targeted for domestic abuse.
How is a victim affected by domestic or date violence? Elena.
They want the abuse to end, but not the relationship. They can feel isolated, depressed, or helpless. They're embarrassed of the situation. They fear judgment, deny or minimize the abuse, or make excuses for the abuser. They still love their abuser. They distance themselves from family or friends, feel guilt related to the relationship, feel shamed, have anxiety, and suicidal thoughts.
Number 6, how is family affected by domestic violence? Savvy.
It can cause divorce, anger and fear in family, and distance family relationships.
Who knows number 7? How is society affected? Anyone know number 7? Sabrina.
Healthcare can be raised because the people are hurt. They will not show up to work because of their injuries, and they'll have to have people cover for them.
Number 8, why is domestic violence and date violence increasing in the U.S.? Elena.
Women and men are afraid to speak up, and they feel like they can't get help because of unjust treatments.
Does anyone know some of the consequences? Sabrina?
The family consequences are they live in fear, they have mental and physical problems, anxiety, social issues, and they can even die from the abuse.
Yeah, the abuser, can't they have like jail time? I think so.
Speaking of jail time, who knows any of the laws? Sabadoo-doo?
Well, in 1994, Congress passed the Violence Against Women Act, or the VAWA. This protects women's rights against domestic violence.
Thanks.
Oh, the end part.
Sabrina, you have more?
Yeah, under that law, it is a federal crime to cross state lines and physically injure an intimate partner. It's also illegal to cross the state lines to harass or stalk someone. And it is illegal for a person to cross state lines and violate a protection order.
Number 11 says, why do victims stay and not just leave the abusive relationship? Who knows this? Elena.
They're afraid and are being threatened. They can be hopeful that their abuser will change and or stop the abuse. They have no support from friends or family. They feel like they have nowhere to go or no ability to get away. Or they could have children in common with the abuser and fear their safety if the victim leaves.
Nicole, do you even know number 12?
Yes.
What can victims do to stop the violence?
You could tell someone close to them or a family member, call the police or a domestic violence hotline at 1-800-799-SAFE. Then they could try to leave the situation as fast as they can.
Does anyone know how the cycle of abuse can be stopped? Starting at tension building, incident, reconciliation to calm? Sabrina.
Well, the cycle can be broken if the victim decides to not put up with it and leave them right away.
Elena.
Can the abusive person change?
An abusive person can change. Finding God and realizing what they're doing and decide to make a change can help. What time is it? Okay, still, just like chirp in and be like, oh, that's what we learned yesterday.
Oh, that's what we were. Oh, I can't.
Do it again. Number 8. Next day. And that way you guys like come in again and it's like funny.